Hey everybody, Austin Hill Shaw here, founder of Creativity Matters and author of The Shoreline of Wonder on Being Creative. We're going to continue in our journey on creativity and Bay Area innovation. Creativity and Bay Area innovation. And today we're going to look at something called the spirit of transformation. The spirit of transformation. One of the most amazing aspects of the Bay Area is this palpable sense of the spirit of transformation that happens here. And we've already talked about that in some ways in terms of, for example, the grinding geology here, the fact that this place is always transforming, and even the waves of people that have been here, the fact that this is once a huge indigenous place, people from all different tribes living in the same region. To the fact that it was part of Spain for a while, then part of Mexico, and now part of the United States, that there's always been this spirit of transformation that's been going on there, including the transformation of the city, transformation of the landform, even the transformation of the interaction between the fog and the sunshine, and how you can start with this beautiful, bright, sunny day, and then suddenly it's just overrun by this kind of incredible fog. Vastly transforming the day. Going back to that sense of the grinding geology, and what I love to do sometimes is when I'm pondering creativity is I love to kind of look at the connections between very different things. And one of the things that I find most interesting is looking at the California state rock, which is called serpentine. And serpentine is a very interesting rock because it actually originates really deep in the Earth's crust. It's found really deep in the Earth's crust. But what it does is it works its way up for one reason or another along fault systems, right? It's the movement of the Earth that over time causes this rock that originates deep in the Earth. It's not lava, right? It's just rock that moves up, gets pushed up, and is suddenly expressed at the surface. And so serpentine is a type of rock that it kind of looks at snake-like. Sometimes it's green in color, but it has this thing that almost looks like snake skin. And so I find it really fascinating that we have the state rock, which is called serpentine, as it relates to the metaphor of the snake, okay? Because the snake throughout different cultures has been this representation of transformation. As we know, snakes every so often shed their skin. They go through a process by which the old skin sloughs off, it becomes kind of gray, and then they work their way out of it and there's a new skin, okay? So that spirit of transformation has been present in the Bay Area really since the beginning. Even the idea of people transforming their lives by coming out and seeking this precious substance called gold, right? During the 49, the gold rush. But even more, kind of in more recent history, there's been a real sense of seekers coming out here, which has been fueled by a lot of different things. Again, we talked about the collision of Eastern culture that was bringing all the cosmologies such as Zen and Tibetan Buddhism, even some Indian culture coming over here. But this influence that is coming from, again, the East influencing people out here, seekers coming from all the world to learn yoga, to learn meditation, to learn mindfulness practices, which sort of originated in this, they originated in different areas, but they were kind of glommed onto here in the Bay Area. There was also a guy named Werner Erhard, who was the founder of something called EST, which stood for EST basically stood for Erhard seminary trainings. And basically, Werner Erhard was a person who, unfortunately, he'd kind of gone through a transformation in another place and decided to leave his wife and kids, which I don't, totally appreciate about him. But he came out west and he studied with a lot of different teachers, and he was kind of trying to reinvent himself on some levels. And he came up with this system, which is basically a 60-hour immersion course in the early 70s, by which people would come in and do this seminar where basically Werner Erhard was very confrontational, very kind of in people's faces about the stuff that were blocking them. In other words, he was trying to help people move past blockages, to move through the things that weren't serving them. And so that school of transformation, what we would call workshops, had a huge, influence on the way that a lot of different seminars are run today. It even had an influence on a guy named Chogyam Trungpa, who was one of the early Tibetan pioneers of Buddhism in the West, who first went to the UK and then came to the United States and eventually went to Canada. He really saw what Werner Erhard was doing in taking taking religious and spiritual values, putting them in non-sectarian and secular teachings and packaging them and giving to audiences who were suspicious of religion as a really powerful thing. And based on that, he came up with his own set of teachings called the Shambhala teachings, which are almost like a secular version of Buddhism, which teaches you about meditation and mindfulness and all these sorts of things, but without having a person commit or take refuge in any particular spiritual or religious system, which a lot of people, unfortunately, were suspicious of, for better or for worse. But that spirit of transformation has really always been here. And when I moved here, when I was 18 years old, I really got a sense of how different this environment is, both just in the energy that was here, the diversity of culture, all the different foods, all the different plants, but also on top of that was this spirit of transformation. And to this day, I've surrounded myself with people who are as interested in the kind of the meta-narrative of being a human being as anything. I've been part of a men's circle. I participated in what transformed out of S trainings, what is called Landmark, and done their courses, which are fabulous. I've done what's called circling, which is a way of, again, kind of like what Werner Erhard was doing, but in group settings where you say something that's going on and you have people reflect back to it what they're feeling and seeing in terms of what you're saying. And all these are ways, from the point of view of creativity and innovation, by which we can step out of our preconceived notions of the world, step out of our habitual patterns, step out of the dogmas that we are either knowingly or unknowingly carrying around with us. And again, step into the world as it is. Step into more of a vibrant experience of the world as it is. I mean, the ultimate goal of transformation from my point of view is to be able to shed all the stuff that we don't need, right? And just go on with the things that actually make us feel more alive, more loving, more happy, more joyous, more service-oriented, and able to feeling like we're, again, connecting with the world and affecting it in a meaningful way. Take only the essential things that you need in order to do that and slough off all the rest, right? We don't need to be burdened by these belief systems. So transformation has been, a powerful aspect of it. And I love, once again, that it's so tied to this idea, the metaphor of the snake, which is this, the California state rock. It's so cool to me. So if you've had any experiences in your life that have been transformative, I mean, everybody has these lives but what are the sort of things that have really caused you to step out of an old pattern that you had, or to start to see the world in a different way? Maybe it was, somebody that you met in your life. So maybe it was a teaching, or maybe it was a time when things were falling apart on some levels. Maybe it was a time where you were in sort of ceremonial setting, or on a vision quest, or some sort of shamanic retreat. Or perhaps it was just you're moving along, kind of doing your thing, and suddenly you just had a new vision of what happened there. I love stories like that. I love stories of transformation and what comes out of it, because I think, again, as creators, as people, as human beings who, as our birthright, have this thing called creativity, we are always interested in growing. We are always interested in the transformative aspects of being a human. I mean, of course, that we get into the fear-based aspect of we need to hold on things and set things up in a particular way. But the more that we can, again, tend to what needs to be tended to, but let go of the baggage, right? Let go of the needs, the shoulds, I should do this, I don't want to do that, those sorts of things, and can allow our lives to be a continual experience, ever-unfolding experience of transformation, of interacting with a dynamic, interdependent, deeply mysterious, the more we can just drop into the transformation that's happening all the time as we're growing and our children are growing and our parents are growing and people are moving around us and people are moving into our lives and leaving our lives. When we can be aware of this, we can start to see the display, the beauty of the display, the miraculous, the sacred display of being a human. And not only just a human, but a human who is fully inhabiting our creativity through the spirit of transformation, through the spirit of transformation. Please share any experiences that you have that in the area below this video. And I encourage you to read what's below this. The information that I'm presenting here is different than what's below. It's still in the spirit of transformation, but when I get up in front of here, I tend to riff. I like to go like, what's present for me right now? What's present for me right now? Okay? So, if you're not on my website right now, you can go to www.austinhillshaw.com. If you'd like to share this information, please do so. You can share it on Facebook or Twitter or whatever you'd like to do. I am so indebted for your willingness to help me get this information out there. So thank you so much for that. Again, this is Austin Hill Shaw, founder of Creativity Matters and author of The Shoreline of Wonder, reminding you to connect deeply, to make a difference, and to inspire creativity in others. Thank you so much for joining me.